Marianna Lead is a Master Certified Coach and an ICF Credentialing Assessor since 2008. She's the founder of Goal Imagery Coaching Academy, a globally recognized ICF accredited school offering training for all ICF credentials. Her signature holistic life, career and executive coach training is taught in 6 languages, and her alumni span 90+ countries. A pioneer in integrating emotion and imagination into coaching, Marianna has worked with FEMA, EY, and American Airlines. She co-authored Me, My Brand and Why, and founded the 18,000+ member LinkedIn group ICF Coach Mentors and ICF Coaches.
All right, here we are. So hopefully today we're not going to have any technical issues, and I'm excited and I'm ready to have our half an hour intensive ICF Coaching Supervision Circle. I have some exciting questions from my audience. And of course, invite your feedback, your comments, your questions as we are going to be looking at that. But also, if you have something that you would like to share, a personal case study, something that you're not sure about in terms of what to do or what not to do with your client, or if you're not sure if you, whatever you did already, if there would be or could be a more effective way to do so. Whatever your questions, you can literally put it in the chat of this LinkedIn Live and in the comments, right? And I will see them in my software. Unfortunately, this platform doesn't allow you to speak, right? So I can't hear you live or see you live like we can on Zoom, but I will absolutely see your comments at this LinkedIn Live, and I will be able to respond to them in the moment. So exciting. It's very exciting to be here again. Let me read something from one of the questions that I got. Okay, so here we go. So what do we have here is, I'm going to read it out loud. Okay. Here we go. So so imagine that you're coaching a leader in an organization, and she's over her eyeballs, right? You know, she's extremely overwhelmed. She has been given too much work to do. She works until 2:00 in the morning. Who can relate to that? I'm not sure, but maybe some of you can. But I'm sure that most of us can relate to working overtime, maybe not till 2 a.m. unless you're running your own business, because I often go to sleep at 2 a.m., but that's a different story. Look, so this person is working until 2 a.m. and is consistently overwhelmed. The coach had 2 coaching sessions so far, and this client wanted to spend the coaching sessions on creating lists because she doesn't have the time to do it in her regular time, and she needs to become more efficient. And so what the coach is finding herself to do is the coach is just literally just sitting there and waiting for the client to complete her to-do lists for work. And I actually have similar requests when the client is requesting to create a schedule of some sort. So it may not be a list, could be a schedule. And then the calendar is opened, and then the coach is literally observing the client, entering some notes, creating some schedules, creating some lists. And usually there is a feeling that you are not bringing value. You may be even doubting, what am I doing here to begin with? But the measure of success is driven by the client. The client says, well, I want to leave this meeting by creating this or that list or this or that schedule, right? And what do we do in these type of situations? How can we bring more value? How can we create a deeper conversation, especially when we're speaking about masterful coaching? It may feel even like slightly insulting, maybe even to our core values, because you're just sitting there, you're not really exercising the core competencies all that much. You're not really asking any of the deep questions because you don't feel that there is a window of opportunity to even ask anything deeper. And so my feedback on that is that, I think that it depends a lot on you standing your ground while following your client. And there is this, of course, nuanced balance here. And so what I mean by that, don't be shy asking deeper questions, even when your client wants to just create a list. So, for instance, in this situation, we're talking about someone who is extremely overwhelmed and clearly wants to show up as a contributor to the organization. She wants to be recognized for what she does as a leader, as a manager, as a leader. And one of the questions that comes to mind could be, as you create these lists, or as you iron out the schedule, what will shift internally in your view of yourself as a leader, right? This question seems quite innocent and on the topic, it's on target, and yet it has this invitation for the client to go much deeper, to consider her own emotions, to consider the future that she may be visualizing in connection with this seemingly simple thing that she is doing, which is creating lists. And so by asking these type of questions, you're shifting their mindset from just mechanically writing down lists or schedules to a deeper understanding of the meaning behind it, meaning to themselves, to their identity, and meaning to their overall career, right? And even the fact that the person is overwhelmed and is working until 2 a.m. could be addressed in a way that you are witnessing it and returning it back to the client for their own consideration, right? And clearly, I'm not going to ask, how do you like it? Because in any shape or form, because clearly no one likes sitting at 2, until 2 a.m. in the morning and working on the computer. But it's more about, what does it make you? How do you think of yourself when that happens? And I'm saying this because certain resentments are definitely going to come up. But then with those resentments, maybe a different way of addressing certain things will come up as well. And so there's a potential to turn the client from what is happening that she doesn't like into a deeper awareness of what she could start moving towards that would be better, more productive, more effective for her personal life and for her career. I see some comments here. So Arlene, thank you. Let's see. So I think expectations should be reset gently, not critically. Exactly. Or probably turn list into an avenue for coaching. So don't reject it. Exactly. Those are really good points, Arlene, because we don't want to be confronting the client about something that they want to get done, right? And we don't want to judge their desire for the coaching session outcome, right? So we're not asking these questions in order for the client to start defending themselves and defending their goal for the coaching session. But we are asking these questions to expand their understanding of who they are and where they're going. Because it's so easy to just get into the routine, and 2 a.m., as resentful as they may be, is kind of becoming a permanent feature of their life, and it stops being something unusual. And evenings when you go to sleep on time becomes a present, right? And so I think that the most important thing that we bring in coaching is awareness. And I think that we need to be reminding ourselves that this is our direct job responsibility, to be bringing more awareness to our clients, no matter what the topic is and no matter what the desired outcomes may be. Arlene is adding, or ask the client, what's most important on this list? Or which of these actually aligns with your goals? Or what's realistically achievable this week? Or is there anything that can be removed? Right. I mean, these are really good questions, if that's what the client is looking for. And so the risk of asking questions that are specific to the list is that we're going to be focusing only on this issue versus broadening it and deepening it. And a lot of times, I think a coach would be assuming that the client needs help where they may not need help at all. So those are good questions. What's most important on this list? This type of question may bring clarity, but is the client looking for clarity on the list that they're creating, right? So I think that before we ask any of these type of questions, we need to understand why is this choice of using the coaching session to create a list or the lists in plural, right? What is my role of a coach here? How do you see me contributing to this effort of you writing these lists? I think these type of questions talk about partnership without guilting the client and without pushing to change their agenda or their desired outcome in any way. And then depending on what they say, that's your, a model of operation. That's how you're going to move with your questions once you really understand what your client needs. And so, but in the situation that I was bringing, the client's response was, I just don't have time to do it. I just, so then the coach feels like a babysitter. You're literally babysitting the client when she's writing her lists. So that's a very kind of awkward situation to be in when that's what the client tells you. This is what I want. I just want you to be here. Your presence makes me feel safer, makes me feel better, and I don't have time to do them. And they're very useful for me when I go back to work tomorrow, and then maybe I'll go to sleep on time today. And so that's when you have to be creative and start asking those questions that are going to allow the client to stay in what they want to do and yet see those things, whatever they are, surfacey things, maybe at a deeper or a different angle, right? So that's what's really, really important, I feel, right? Yeah. Thank you, Arlene. Arlene writes, noted. Yes. Right. So I think that what we're getting to right now is that we have to be really mindful of making assumptions. And even the best of us sometimes go by assuming what the client needs or wants versus creating real clarity. And it's kind of, just literally the litmus test is asking yourself, did I hear it from the client? Did the client tell me that this is what they're looking for? Right? And if they don't tell you, then you may be wasting both of your time. Right? And Eric, welcome. Okay. And Eric is writing, I appreciate your comment that the coach's role is to support the client in becoming more aware, regardless of their goal for the session or the coaching engagement. As a supervisor, I often experience coaches as reluctant to embrace this because they have an idea that it means they, as the coach, would be taking over the agenda. It's really interesting how we sometimes get hung up on rules, quote unquote rules that don't even exist, right? Like, for instance, I hear a lot of times that there is this rule, not a rule, or an idea that mostly what we do is ask questions. It doesn't say anything anywhere in ICF core competencies that's the only thing that we do, right? To provide feedback is extremely important. Without your feedback, the client may not see a different angle. And without your feedback, there isn't really a true partnership. Where is the partnership? Where is your part of it? Where is your perception? Where is the way that you view whatever the client is bringing, right? Right? So it's really important to understand, well, what are my assumptions, not even only about the client, but also about ICF core competencies and our role as a coach. So yes, of course, we have to do it the right way. So the wrong way is to force the client into your way of thinking, or which is partly, it could be just simply repeating it, repeating your point of view and nudging your client towards it. That would be the wrong way. But if you just share and ask your client, and what do you think about that? That's beautiful. That's partnership, right? Eric is saying, you're singing my song. Well, I'm glad we can have a duet and maybe a chorus, if everyone else joins in. That's great, right? And Arlene is adding, Marianna, can we ask, I'm noticing we are organizing tasks. I'm happy to do that, but I'm also curious. What are you feeling right now? Yes, absolutely. You can ask that question unless the client already told you. So usually, in the situation that I described, it's very clear that the client is overwhelmed, that the client is frustrated. The client says, I have no time, I'm overwhelmed, then asking that question would only intensify negative feelings, right? And I think that it's really important for us to always think, how is my question or how is my perspective, my feedback is useful for the client, right? And so what we want to return to the client is something that they may not be aware of and something that may be useful. Like if they are not aware that they are overwhelmed and that it's affecting them negatively, then it would be a good question, right? But if we already know that they are aware of it, if they've shared it, then this question just would not be effective. We could use the time for that question to ask something else, right? So I always say that masterful coaching starts with really your ears. It's what are we listening for? What are you listening for? Are you listening for a place to just ask a question? Are you looking to prove that you are providing value? Like, what is the intention? How do you listen? Or do you listen to fix something or to provide advice and then try to think how you can say it so it doesn't sound like an advice? Like, what if you try, and it's still an advice, right? So all of these are really, really good thoughts. Like when you are talking to a really close friend, right? Sometimes you just share things and they come up with a response, well, maybe you could, and that's not what you're really looking for. What you're looking for a witness, someone who understands where you're coming from, someone who says, yes, I see you, I hear you, right? And how can I help maybe? Again, don't assume that whatever the client is shared, they're looking for you to do something about anything at all, right? So I have another LinkedIn user. I don't know, it doesn't say who it is, maybe because we're not connected. I'm not sure what happens. And says, we could explore feelings even if they have shared. If we ask, how would you like to feel instead? Yes, exactly. This is a great question, great approach. I always try to flip, and I suggested to my students to flip negative into positive. So if the client knows that they're feeling not the way that they would like to feel, what would you like to have or to feel instead? And that immediately rewrites their brain connections. According to neuroscience, well, now we could actually see the brain, the map of the brain. Before, we just knew it just sounded like a good idea. But now it's proved by science that when we're asking these type of questions, people literally create new maps of their new behavior. And then if they do those behaviors, if they actually repeat them, then they turn into a habitual new thing. And I think that's beautiful. That's what we're looking for. But yeah, so don't get discouraged when you are asked to just be a witness to something that looks like stupid, stupid simple. And it's like, what am I doing here? Just what are you doing there? Just do your job. Get clarity on why they're doing it, what's meaningful about that for them, whether they're looking for your collaboration on that specific issue, and then turn it deeper, ask deeper questions, and be with your client from one moment to the next, right? That's what's important. Yes. So that's what it is that we are talking about. Anything else, guys? Look, I really appreciate your participation. It's really exciting when you know that you're not talking into a vacuum. And I'm so glad that it's working out today, because last week I had to skip it because of the technology. And so I'm glad, I think I figured it out. And so we're going to be here every single week at the same time, at the same place, pretty much. And I'm going to be sending reminders about 10-15 minutes at our group, ICF Coach Mentors and ICF Coaches. And I'm also going to be posting on my profile. Originally, I wanted to make it exclusive to my group, ICF Coach Mentors and ICF Coaches, but LinkedIn changed technology, and now you can't run LinkedIn directly from a group. So I'm kind of forced to do it on my personal profile. And I don't know how you guys found me or how you are joining, but if you're not part of my group, then please join the group. ICF Coach Mentors and ICF Coaches. So there's another comment: cultural differences that you have seen, and how do you deal with them? Cultural differences. Well, we're almost out of time. We have 3 minutes left, but I have to say that I think that cultural differences mostly are about being transparent and being real and being truthful. Because if you are a foreigner, or if you're speaking a different language, if you're from a different culture, and if your client knows it, they're going to give you a break. They're not going to be expecting you to follow their rules and norms. If you do something silly or inappropriate in their sense, they're going to mark it as, oh, okay, she just didn't know, or he just didn't know, right? They're going to forgive us. But we have to be transparent and apologetic about it, right? And when we come in with the right attitude, everything works just fine. So if you have time to learn about that culture, of whatever culture that we're different culture that you were talking about, that's wonderful. But if you don't have the time, sometimes we just don't have the time and show up, and we have to show up, you just say it. And even if you did have time, I think I would premise it with, hey, I did look up some things, but if I like, expect some bloopers, because I just don't know what I don't know, right? And the same thing when we are in the opposite seat, right? So I think that you can refer and think about your own experience, and how do we treat someone who tells us something like that. Like we wouldn't hold it against them, right? So I think it's really important to be transparent, and maybe even ask for help. It's like, hey, I would love to learn more about your culture, because I care and I'm interested. And so whenever you feel that there's an opportunity for you to educate me, please do. I mean, this is the beauty of partnership, right? We are partnering in thinking, we're partnering in, like, emotionally, and in many different ways, right? Professionally. And so this needs to be a joyful, sincere partnership. And there's no partnership without trust, without transparency, and goodwill. And so if you take all of those things, then you're bound to have an impactful conversation, right? For instance, I went to China. I was one of the speakers at their executive conference, and someone gave me their business card, and I looked at the business card and said, "Oh, thank you so much," and I gave them mine. And then she looked at me like I just like landed up from from the moon, and I didn't know what was happening. And then I found out that in that culture you're supposed to hold the card with both hands and study it like for 30 seconds at the very least, and then put it in your pocket or purse. Otherwise, it's a sign of disrespect. But she knew that I was like, an American. It's like, she was surprised, but she absolutely totally forgave me. So this is just an example from my personal life, and I'm sure you can find it in your own lives as well. And I really appreciate you joining me today, and I hope to see you next week. Thank you. Bye for now.